Hello, welcome to Mindful Movement with Waveney Flow. Today we're going to talk about hip movement in your yoga practice, but also in daily life. So our concentration at this moment is on the pelvis. So this is a skeletal model of what your pelvis is like. You've got two big bones on the side here. So if you want to find these points, the ASIS, on the front of your hips, you simply bring your hands to your hips, wiggle around, even if you have to dig around in there, those hip bones are in there. I promise you would not be able to exist. So holding onto those hip bones, get an idea of where they are, where they sit in your body. They might be a bit higher up than you think, they might be a little deeper in than you think, but go ahead, wiggle around, try and find those hip bones to have an idea of where this is within your body. Now, when we're talking about the pelvis, we've got different ranges of movement. We can, of course, move side to side, little salsa dance, little wiggle, and we can move forward and back. This forward and back movement are what we call our tilts. So we've got posterior tilts and anterior tilts, moving the hips forward and back. You also have other ways of moving the pelvis. We can do circular rotations, for example, really getting into those salsa movements. But you can also move the pelvis like this, one side, forward and back. Any idea when you might do that movement? Walking, running, moving, etc. This is your hips moving side to side. So having an idea of what the pelvis looks like and how it can move will help you in your yoga practice. So if we go back to that idea of thinking about tilts, forward and back tilts. This is something that we can integrate into our practice in a cat-cow, for example. So if you come onto all fours in your yoga practice, like you often do when you start a vinyasa flow, for example, we'll work into those cat-cows. So thinking about that pelvis, allow the hips to tilt back. That tailbone points up. There we go. And then we tilt the hips down. Good. And just take that a few times, really exploring how far you can move your hips. I think that's why it's called cow pose. Move. And get into the body. And just notice how that feels. Maybe through the back of the pelvis, back of your hips, maybe in the lower back. This cat-cow movement can be a really nice way to wake up your body, stretch out those muscles, not just in the hips, but between the shoulders. And you can get creative with it. Listen to your body more than your yoga teacher. So maybe you want to move from side to side, shake those hips back, wiggle around, explore all those various ways of moving your hips. But essentially, in that cat-cow, you can think about scooping those hips up, tailbone points down, and tilting those hips the other direction, tailbone points up. Now, obviously, your tailbone is not actually capable of pointing up, but if you get that idea in your body, you're going to start to be able to find more of a range of motion through your pelvis, through those hips. Another way of thinking about the pelvis is your alignment or your ability to distribute your weight evenly in your yoga practice with various shapes and poses. So that can be something as simple as standing. So we'll tilt the camera up to get you there. So when we come to our yoga practice and we think about something like standing, we want to find those points of the hips that we found earlier in our body, even if you have to dig around and find them, they're there. And then notice where they sit. You may find that one hip wants to sit a little higher than the other, or switch around, maybe one's further forward, further back. Try to level those out while considering things like the tripod foot in an earlier video. When you have that level, you can find yourself firmly rooted in your standing position, ready for your yoga practice. You want to maintain that integrity when you shift to something like a standing pose. So if you start balancing on one side of the body, raising the other leg, you may notice that one of the hips goes low, the other goes high. This is a nice time to readjust that pelvis. Keep it firm, core engaged, maintain that balance while you pick the knee up. Good. And wobble a little bit. Life's more fun when you wobble. Another good example of thinking about the pelvis will be in supine poses, so poses where you're lying down on the ground. Something like a figure 4 or reclined pigeon. So if you lie on the ground, pick up a foot, cross your legs, create a figure 4 shape, keeping the foot flexed. You may find that your pelvis, again, goes a little bit wonky, on the hut, so to speak. So if you take your hips, realign them, try and make sure that they're level with one another in terms of how they sit towards the sky, the ceiling, but also in terms of how they sit towards the top or the bottom of the mat, in all planes of movement. Try to maintain that as you move through shapes in your yoga practice. So something like picking up the thigh, getting a deeper stretch in reclined pigeon, or going towards a bridge pose. You could do that with one leg and lower down, or you can do it with 2 legs and raise up. In your yoga practice, there are so many different ways to move, so many different yoga poses. The trick isn't in learning and knowing all the poses, it's in knowing how to move your body. So if you can keep something like the awareness of your pelvis in mind as you move, that will help you find more stability when you balance, keeping those hips level, but also more range of motion when you do things like cat-cow. Thank you.